to do that archaeology yourself. So they weren't serving people well, actually.
Okay. All right.
I don't know, I was just playing around with Windows 10 apps. Here's a Falling Sand game.
Man, that thing launched so snappily.
It was already running. This is a fun kind of app. I can draw a brick here. I can draw sand, and the sand will just fall over. I can rotate it. Oh, and that's changed gravity. It goes on its side. Now, I think the recording studio isn't set up to record what happens if I unplug my tablet and rotate the physical device. But it responds to the orientation correctly and switches around. And because it's a universal app using the Win 10 module, it's a single project, it runs great on phone as well. So no problems there. Another thing that's exciting about this, so VB Universal app that I'm writing, it's using direct 2D graphics acceleration. Normally, if we write something like this, if we're simulating 640 by 480 pixels, trying to do computation on every single one of them, it's too slow to be real time. What I did was I offloaded everything to the graphics accelerator, so it runs at, 120 frames a second if I want to go that fast.
Okay.
It's really exciting. I've started playing around with graphics acceleration. We've done a bunch of things in Windows 10. We've got, there's this standard Microsoft library called Win2D for graphics acceleration. You can also use Monogame or SharpDX for your other graphics and DirectX needs. And that's great for low-level programming of the GPU, if you want this kind of fast maths. On the other side, we've got system.numerics.vectors. I showed you the matrix earlier. This is a type where if you use it in your code, just like I showed you when I created create_skew and I printed it out, I can do matrix and vector multiplication, addition, all of these useful stuff, especially important for doing 3D stuff or colors or anything like this. And those are accelerated on the CPU using SIMD, single instruction multiple data. So special instructions on Intel chips, on AMD chips, that just do 4 things at once in a single clock cycle rather than having to do it 4 times. So if you use those numeric types, you get performance increase for free.
Cool.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
There's another really important part of performance that's being introduced with Windows 10 apps. So I'm going to open my Windows 10 app. This is the Falling Sands demo that I showed you. It's also the one with this dependency property. I'm going to switch into release build. When I build this project in release, it's not going to be a good time because it's going to take 2 minutes despite being a slow app. Now we're working to bring that compile time down, but what those 2 minutes buys you is phenomenal. What it's doing is it's taking your familiar VB code and it's taking all of the .NET framework, it's bundling them together, and they're all in IL. Now traditionally, this intermediate language was run by the CLR runtime. It had to JIT each method, blah, blah, blah. There was interrupt. What it does is it looks at your entire program. It does super aggressive. I use the word super again. It does highly aggressive optimization.
You are wearing a Super VB shirt.
Yeah.
It optimizes your code. It optimizes the heck out of your code. It looks at your code, it discovers every single possible code path that will never be reached, and it prunes that. It looks at all of the serialization code you're using, data contract, JSON.NET, any kind of serialization, and rather than doing that via reflection at runtime, it does that at compile time. It pre-generates the serialization proxies, so that's really fast, and then it takes all of this and it turns it into pure native machine code using the same aggressive optimizing backend as the C++ compiler. So what we'll end up with when it finishes in 2 minutes, this is a Surface Pro 1, so it's still slower. On more modern machines it takes a minute, and we're going to improve that speed. What you end up with is a single self-contained application that contains your code and all of the libraries you reference and the version of the .NET framework you reference, shrunk down. All of that into, currently it's about I don't know, my app with the Falling Sands demo works out at about 6 megabytes. So
Okay.
a fairly decent size for deploying to customer devices.
Right.
Once it's all in .native, because there's no JIT anymore, startup time drastically improved. 50% faster startup time. I'm paying a little bit here in compile time, but every single customer of my app will just get much faster time.
But this only happens
Lower
at
battery
release,
life,
right?
too.
This only
Only
happens
in
at
release,
release. This
yeah.
isn't that you've taken the time to build in debug mode and made that longer. This is only in release mode.
Absolutely. And actually, I'll stay in debug most of the time because that way I get editing continuum
Right.
improvements and all of the other. By the way, another thing is that when you're developing, say, phone apps, you're connected to an emulator. In the past, we didn't have editing continuous support for that. Now we do in Visual Studio 2015.
Cool.
I think we see why Lucian's super excited, don't we?
Yeah.
You're super excited. Right?
Absolutely. So this is a Windows 10 only thing, .NET Native?
Currently, it's
Okay.
Windows 10 only.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We wanted to introduce it slowly, see how it goes, introduce it in a controlled environment. And actually, we're introducing it there because it's a massive increase on what used to happen on phone. On phone, it used to be that when you did a release build, it did a small amount of optimization before it went on the device. Now we've, what's the phrase, given it a blast of the spice weasel. We've kicked it up a notch.
The
Yeah.
Spice Weasel?
That's a Futurama reference.
Okay.
So now you can not only can you write these apps for these platforms, you can write awesome apps for these platforms.
Yeah. Cool. Very good. All right. More? Or is that it?
You know, I think I've done talking about what's new in the box, and I think we've given a strong indication of how the ecosystem for .NET has become much stronger.
Okay.
The ecosystem for VB has become much stronger, and how just the editor experience of writing code will be massively improved.
So we should talk a little bit about open source
Yeah.
at this point. You know, we've talked a lot about how the languages are open source and Roslyn is open source, and I think people are very aware that C# is open source. The invitations to come and join us and see what we're doing. VB is 100% the same thing, right?
Absolutely. Let's check it out. Can I go to this computer and then I'm going to type in Roslyn, which is the code name of the VB and C# compilers, and IDE and all of that, and GitHub. .NET/Roslyn. There we are. Here is the source code for the VB compiler.
Okay.
The team is doing all of their development work in the open. Every single bug that gets filed up here. Every change set that the team does, or anyone in the community submits pull requests, they all go through here. I actually filed a couple of ones on the Issues tab. Let's see. VB incorrectly offers a cast is redundant quick fix. Oh look, I just filed it and they've already assigned it to someone. That's good.
Okay.
So
Did they assign it to you? Because that's what I would have done.
thanks, Anthony. That's what I appreciate about you. No, so everything's there in the open. We can see what's happening. We can file issues. Everyone can file issues. It's a really nice, responsive way. What I love is when I file a bug here, I see immediately what's happening. I see how all of the developers are talking about it. There's complete transparency. Yeah.
Now, we still have user voice, right?
We still
this
have
doesn't-
user voice.
We're not saying stop using user voice, come to GitHub and tell us what you want there, right?
No, but the nature of the conversations is a little different. User voice is very much about people kind of voting and upvoting things, and there's a more direct engagement with the broader product team. So we still engage in user voice, but here we also talk about a lot of implementation things, and this is where people go if they really want to contribute. So for example, one of our passionate VB community members, his name is Adam Spade, 2008 actually, spent a lot of time working on improving some code that was in the parser and kind of making it more maintainable. And so he was just working so hard on it. He was trying to fix all this stuff that we kind of overlooked, and he sent in a PR and went through all the code review feedback with us, and he got a check-in, and he got a free mug out of the deal, actually with his hash of his check-in there and a note. So it's open source. The open source community is contributing to it. We'd like to see more people go and do that.
So if I just want a feature, right? I just want, when I extract a method, I just want the ability to put it somewhere else. I don't
Just
care
slam
about
it in.
the implementation details. That's your job. I just want the feature. I should go to user voice, enter that, and get other people to vote on it. If I have ideas about how it's going to work, if I want to actually play around with the code and write some code maybe that shows you how it works, then I wouldn't do that in user voice. I'd come over here. Or I might do both, right? Go to
people
user
do that.
voice to get other people to agree to it, and then come over here to actually help write it. Is that
Oh, that's a good idea.
oversimplification?
The other
or-
thing, Robert, maybe you could implement it yourself, and then you could submit a pull request, and we'll accept it.
See, now you're pulling the assign it to him trick.
I want to show you one other tool that I love it when people use. On here, Visual Studio 2015, the smiley face, click on it, send a smile, send a frown. I'll click on send a frown if there was a problem. Hey, this ran too slow. I'm going to send a frown. And if I choose a category, if Visual Studio crashed or it's not responding or something seems too slow, I can actually hit the start button and record